weirdos, boos and ghouls. You are listening to or watching Keep It Weird, the podcast for all things strange and unusual, unlucky and doomed, pitiful, unfortunate, and everything in between. Each week we sit down together from across the country and we talk about something weird. And this week is no exception, of course, as we continue on during the absolute best month of the year with another super fun Halloween episode. This spooktacular month, we get to bring on guests, for the first time this season pretty much, and chat about all things beautifully bizarre. But watch out! It is Friday the 13th. Don't walk under a ladder, and be extra careful around mirrors today. I'm not going to warn you about black cats, because we love black cats here on this podcast, and you should pick one up and cuddle it. But you do not want a horrible streak of bad luck in your life. Like the people in today's stories we are about to share, we are bringing you some of the most unfortunate stories experienced by people without a lick of luck, it seems, from around the world. And then you can help us in deciding who really is the unluckiest person in the world, and why are they so unlucky. What a way to celebrate Friday the 13th. My name is Lauren. This is my lovely co-host, Ashley/Catwoman.
Hi, weirdos. Meow.
Meow. And joining us today, we're bringing back a fan favorite, one of the funniest and brightest humans that we love to make just a little bit mad sometimes. The love of Ashley's life, it is Handsome Joe!
Hey, 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 hey.
Hey, hey.
Hi, everybody.
Hey, hey, hey. Hello, Joe. Welcome back.
It's good to be here, everybody. It's been a hiatus. I've been doing some stuff. I've been out there in the world. It's terrible out there. I'm happy to be back.
Yeah, no one go outside.
Don't go outside.
Don't do it. It's the worst.
It's the purge 24/7 out there.
So happy to have you back on this.
It's good to be here. I missed you. I missed you both. I actually haven't seen Ashley since the last time I recorded
only get to see
an
him when we
episode of Keep It
record.
Weird. Yeah. It's a very strange clause we have in our marriage contract where
Only recording
So
days.
this is good.
show
I missed my wife a lot, so it's really good to be here.
Oh, glad you can be together on this
Literally together. The quest.
They're gonna break their necks.
The quest to find my wireless earbuds did not go well this morning.
Sure didn't.
So here we are,
Woof.
conjoined twins,
Sitting so close together.
sharing one pair of headphones like we're on a Peter Pan bus in 2004. And I just got my new iPod, and I want to show you how it works.
Little iPod.
Yeah.
My iPod.
And you're showing her a new song, like a punk song.
Yeah, no,
like,
we're listening to the Shins together right now, like it's Garden State.
Have you heard of them?
Yeah.
That's how you're gonna rope her in.
Ever heard of them?
Also,
yes.
We have Ashley looking fabulous as Catwoman.
Oh my God, so foxy.
Cat ears off to you.
Thank
It is
you.
wonderful. But Joe, tell us about you. I want to say Top Gun, but
you're close. I'm gonna go with Bottom Gun this year. Bottom Gun. All the top pilots were shot down over China, and unfortunately, they need to get volunteers, a la Randy Quaid in Independence Day.
Randy Quaid is actually one of the bottom guns.
So that's me.
So it's
Joe, I am Bottom
Randy
Gun.
Quaid.
I got a 6-hour.
Dennis Quaid.
I got a 6-hour crash course on how to fly an FA-18, and I will almost certainly be
Bottom
crashing
gun.
shortly.
We got him. We got
Are
Bottom
you
Gun here with us.
because you're wearing a Nostromo alien jumpsuit?
No, I wasn't even. No, this is
Ooh.
just that was going to go unspoken. That this is technically inappropriate. Continue.
You look fantastic.
It's good to be here. I get to wear sunglasses, which is one of my favorite things to do on a recording. Windows to the soul and all that. You don't get to see in these eyes.
No way.
You want to see in these eyes?
You don't get to peer
You don't
in
get
these
to.
eyes.
You gotta pay. Actually,
You gotta
join
pay to
our
see these
Patreon
eyes.
at www.patreon.com/keepitweirdpodcast, and we'll show you
Then you
Joe's
want to-
eyes.
You want to see the baby blues? Show me the green.
We need to add that as a new tier. If you donate $25 to the
Joe's
Patreon, we'll show you
Joe will
Joe's
reveal
eyes.
his eye color to you in exchange for a pledge of $5 a month.
That is
Also,
so
I'm
good.
trying to hide the fact that I got a Christmas
Why
mug.
did you have so many spoons?
Of all the mugs, Of all the mugs you could have chosen,
have
it is
Halloween mugs,
October,
we have
it's
mugs
Friday
from
the
Salem.
13th.
Just grab the mug.
You brought in a Christmas
says,
tree.
"Don't
You
get
should
your
just get
tinsel
the
in a
hell out of
tangle."
here.
Don't get your tinsel in a tangle. Hey, you know what? That's sound advice 365. All right, it doesn't have to
Yeah,
be
that's
Christmas
true.
for that to.
Don't get your
no,
tinsel in
that's
a
just,
tangle.
That's just good advice.
Well, happy Friday the 13th, you freaks.
Yeah.
Bunch of freaks.
We did a Friday the 13th episode back in season 1. It was episode 6 of season 1, Bloody Sophie, Bloody Sophie, Bloody Sophie.
Oh,
What if a
yes.
pregnant, beautiful Chinese woman just popped up behind us?
I know.
said her name 3 times. I love you, Sophie.
Because Sophie is pregnant, for anyone who
Oh,
doesn't
yeah,
follow.
Sophie's,
Yes.
Sophie's going to have a baby.
Inside.
I'm very excited to meet
Yay.
her little boy. So,
Yay.
in that episode, we cover the origins of Friday the 13th, why people think Friday the 13th is cursed, mirrors, letters, cats.
Those mirrors. You know, those
all of
mirrors.
the above. But we didn't really get into people who have had
Woof.
really bad luck. So today we're going to be giving you a list of probably about 10 people who might have the worst luck in the world. And at the end of this episode, we're going to try and rank them to see who is the unluckiest person. Are you guys ready?
I'm ready.
I'm so
You have your
ready.
unlucky folks.
Oh
Great.
yeah.
I'm going to go first.
Yeah.
Yay,
And
kitty cat.
I'm going to start with the person that, she's really high up there. Her name is Anne Hodges.
Ooh.
Anne Hodges is the only human being in recorded history to be hit by a meteorite.
That stinks.
That's a bummer.
That's a real.
That's a
We
bad
got an early contender
Tuesday.
for a
an
winner.
early
If you're the
contender.
only person
I-
ever that anything has happened to, you're instantly toward the top.
I know, I was gonna say, I'm sorry to jump the gun, but I think
We
she
might have a
she
number
wins.
one.
She wins.
No.
Thanks for
Yeah.
listening,
All right.
everybody.
Anyways,
Yeah,
thank
we'll
you.
see you next
We'll see you
time.
next week. So on November 30th, 1954, at 2:46 p.m., this was in Alabama. 34-year-old Anne Hodges was curled up on the couch taking a nap. She had her, her quilted blankets on her. She was curling up. It was the afternoon when an 8.5-pound, 4.5 billion-year-old meteorite shot like a bullet through her house and actually banging into and destroying her large radio console and then bouncing onto her body. So luckily it wasn't a direct hit
Oh,
to her
geez.
body because
Yeah.
then she probably would be in pieces.
Yeah,
Because
dismembered.
it still
Yeah.
left like the gnarliest bruise I have ever seen. Like it still hit her. Like
Well, yeah, it traveled for 4.5 billion years to get to her. That
That
thing
is
had
the
some
craziest
inertia behind
part.
it.
This billion-year-old meteorite was like, Anne, it's
Yeah, I'm
you.
coming.
That is insanity.
Coming for
I'm coming
ya.
for you.
According
Wow.
to Michael Reynolds, a Florida State College astronomer, you have a better chance of getting hit by a tornado and a bolt of lightning and a hurricane at the same time.
That sounds
Just
right.
so you know how rare it is to be hit by a meteorite. So Anne was in the house with her mother at the time, and they didn't know what happened. So, like, obviously, like, something happened. Like, there was a big bang.
Right.
The house was full of dust. They actually thought that possibly the chimney had collapsed or a space heater
Oh.
had blown up because they didn't know. They were just like, holy shit,
Yeah.
there's dust everywhere.
What just happened? That's also wild.
They called the 911 basically, and emergency services showed up. By the time emergency services showed up, they had found the rock, so they knew that was what happened. What fell through the roof. But what's funny is there's a little tidbit. There's a little drama
Oh,
Oh, we
love
love
that
a
drama.
scandal. Spill the tea.
about who got to keep the meteorite because
I feel like the lady who got hit with it should have first
Anne.
dibs.
It
what
should be
I
Anne.
said, but they rented the house. So the
Oh.
landlord said they thought
Oh.
they had the right to keep.
Just like a fucking
just like a
landlord.
fucking landlord, dude.
That is
Like,
typical
so
landlady
typical.
bullshit.
The landlady
for it.
said she thought she had the rights to it. They ended up having to go to court. Anne ended up paying $500
1950s dollars.
in
That's
order to keep
damn.
the meteorite.
Anne, She had to pay $900 for a bruised side.
for
Oh
bruised
gosh,
side.
trauma.
I gotta chime in here real quick, just as the on-call insurance agent. That's not a covered peril. That's all coming out of pocket. If you think space debris is covered, you better check over
That's
your
fair.
declarations
Check
page,
again.
my
Yeah.
friend, because that is
It
not a
should be
covered peril.
Now that we're living in a crazy time where aliens exist and visit us frequently and all the drama that's going on in the world, I think you guys need to start adding space debris.
I think so. There's an old SNL skit about robot insurance for senior citizens for when killer robots come into your home in the middle of the night and try to kill you.
Yes.
I think we might actually start transacting Meteorite insurance. I'm going to have to bring it up to the higher ups here because there is a
I
precedent.
think you need to.
Yeah, that's
also
crazy.
killer robots. That feels close now too.
Can you imagine, though, that a piece of space debris comes flying through your roof, smashes off your radio or radiator?
It was her, like, stereo system.
Her stereo system, bang,
Okay.
smash. There goes your Victrola. Guess who's not listening to Bill Haley and the Comets tonight? And then it
Oh,
crashes
and the
into you.
Comets.
Ouch, ooch, ouch.
It's perfect.
Now you've got a hole in your roof. Your insurance company isn't going to pay for it. Your landlord thinks she's got the right to it. That is Anne. Anne, that is a rough turn of events.
Rough go.
Yikes.
And
You want to know
like I
something else
said,
that's really cute?
top contender.
She's a top
Oh,
contender
cute.
for sure. Oh, right across from the home. Did I write this down? Yes. Okay, great. So right across this home, there was a drive-in movie theater called The Comet that featured a large neon blinking sign that was a comet soaring through space.
Oh my God.
No.
What?
No.
Isn't that
What
are the
odds?
fucking odds? So that was
What
crazy.
are the fucking odds? Anne.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, only person in the world to get hit by a comet. She's pretty fucking high up there. Joe, do you have a
Yep,
contender?
she sure is.
Oh, I've got a contender.
Ooh. Oh,
Yay.
tell us.
No, I got to ask because I got two heavies that I'm going with today,
Okay.
and then a couple of quick boys right behind them. So,
Uh-huh.
do you want big heavy or do you want little heavy first?
Big heavy.
Big heavy.
I went strong.
Let's go big
right
heavy.
out the
Let's,
gate.
like, get it-
I
yeah,
said
go
hit
in
by
there.
meteor.
So just right from the get-go,
Yeah.
here we go. We're going to talk about Henry Gunther.
Okay.
Anybody come
Oh.
across Henry Gunther on their
No.
studies, on their travels?
I saw his name mentioned, haven't read about him, so you're about to
All right,
shock
good,
me. I
good,
hope.
because this is a pretty good one. So Henry Gunther was a second-generation American born in Baltimore, Maryland,
Baltimore.
in 1895. He grew up in a largely German migrant area, and his parents were German migrants. So he's, in the community there, and this is an important factoid.
Okay.
Okay.
So Henry had a pretty normal and actually kind of comfortable childhood for a first-generation American, not typical of the struggles that you hear about, in the Ellis Island stories. It was actually pretty cushy for him and his family, and he wound up a bookkeeper at a local bank in 1915, had a new girlfriend. Things are going pretty well for Henry Gunther.
Nice.
So, given the fact that he had something of a cushy life and the fact that he came from German parents, he didn't exactly rush off to join the war effort in 1917
Weird.
when the United
Sure.
States entered World War I several years in and, fighting against the Germans, obviously.
Right.
We
Right.
recall.
Well, 5 months later, the
Michael.
United States government said, well, we're going to make that decision for you, Henry Gunther. You have officially been drafted and conscribed into the United
Very
States
cool.
Armed Services. But
We love
But
that.
here's the cool thing,
Love
given the
part
fact
of
that
the
he
US.
had a somewhat cushy job at a bank, this is a point in time when many Americans are still living in rural communities, many Americans are still illiterate.
Yeah.
So at this point in time, given the fact that he was a bookkeeper, they said, all right, hey, listen, you're drafted, you've got some education to you, we're going to make you a supply sergeant, we're going to put you at the rear, we're going to make you responsible for clothing your regiment and your battalion.
Nice. Wait, what does
Oh,
that mean? So,
fun.
like,
Uniforms,
Getting the
and
material-
somebody
getting
says
the
like,
stuff.
hey, one of my boots got blown up yesterday, can I get a new pair of boots? Just things like
take
So
that.
he's
that gig.
essentially in the costume
He's in the
department.
costume
I'm relating
department.
it to being a theater kid, like costume department. Yes. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. So, pretty cushy gig, right? Well, like many
Yeah,
of the
not too bad.
Americans who had just arrived on the battlefields of Europe in 1917, which again, 3 full years after the war has started, so there is already death, destruction, carnage,
Yeah.
hopelessness,
Right.
the worst things you've ever seen in your life. And So as such, he wrote a letter home to his loved ones and to one friend of his in particular, telling them how terrible things are here and telling this one friend, hey, whatever you do, at all costs, do not get drafted.
Damn.
Avoid the draft however possible. You don't want to be here. Well, a month before Henry had sent this letter home, the United States had passed something called the Espionage Act, which, among other things, closely censored letters that were being mailed home from their soldiers at the front to both ensure that no morale drop on the home front would occur, hearing about how bad things actually were there. It was also to discourage people from advertently or inadvertently cooperating with the enemy, given the fact that Henry came from German migrant parents. This raised quite a bit of suspicion in the military, and Henry Gunther was busted down from supply sergeant all the way down to private, which is multiple ranks, and was pulled from the rear and his supply position to become a rifleman on the front in an infantry unit.
Fuck.
Oh,
Fuck.
gosh,
Bad
Henry.
turn of events for Henry Gunther. Oops. So Henry and his new unit arrived at the front on September 12th, 1918, which is almost to the day 2 months before World War I would come to a close. So he's coming in right at the tail end here. You know, this isn't exactly the brunt of the war that he's going to have to, deal with. But so for those who might not know, listening or watching or whatever, the armistice of World War I was signed on the 11th hour at 11 a.m. on the 11th day of the 11th month of the year, November 11th, 1918,
Well, that's easy to remember.
at 11 a.m. And this was
right?
agreed upon.
11s.
Yeah, this was agreed upon by the German and French forces who were negotiating the treaty. But the German side wanted to announce the armistice immediately. Okay, we've agreed to end the war. Let's go share the word. But this French asshole, there's no better way to say it, just an absolute asshole named Marshal Foch, just so fell in love with the idea of the 11th day, the 11th hour, the 11th month. It just all lined up so perfectly in his French fucking brain that he said, nope, we're going to wait another 6 hours to announce that the war is ending. And historians all agree that this contributed to thousands of additional people being killed or wounded because this one French dick.
What is the quote from Dumb and Dumber? I don't know, Lloyd.
I don't know, Lloyd. The French are assholes.
It's correct.
Yeah,
We have
it
too
is.
much proof.
And unfortunately, one of those casualties was none other than Henry Gunther himself.
Damn
But
it,
it's
Henry Gunther.
it's even sadder than that. So on the morning that the armistice was signed, Henry's unit approached a roadblock of these 2 German machine gun nests in the road outside of a town called Lorraine. Now you have to remember that Henry has been publicly shamed throughout all of this. Not only has he been busted down in rank from sergeant to private, but there's chatter that has gone through his old unit and now his new unit. He's a Kraut. His parents are Krauts. He's sympathetic to the Krauts. You can't trust this guy. And everybody knows, even though they don't know the war is about to end, they know that it's ending soon.
Yeah.
Everybody knows the war is drawing to
They're
a close.
reaching a close.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
So desperate to save his name and his honor and to just salvage some bit of honor for himself and his family, and against the orders of his sergeant, Henry Gunther, with a fixed bayonet, gets out of his covered position and charges the machine gun nests by himself. And the German soldiers, unlike the American soldiers, the German soldiers on the other side
They knew.
know that the armistice has been signed, and guess what time it is? It's 10:59 a.m.
No, it's
And the
not.
German soldiers
No, it's
allegedly begin waving Henry Gunther back as he runs at them with a fixed bayonet. They don't shoot him. They're saying like, no, don't, no,
Go.
go
Over.
back. but desperate to prove himself and to salvage his name and his honor, he continues charging and eventually actually fires off a couple shots at one of the machine gun nests. At which point, one of the machine guns turns on him, fires a quick burst, and ends Henry Gunther's life forever at 10:59 a.m., 1 minute before the armistice goes into effect, making Henry Gunther the final American casualty of World War I, 1 minute before the armistice went into effect.
Okay, that might be more unlucky.
Well,
that's pretty bad.
Meteorite hitting it.
That's rough. I don't know. I did not think anything could beat Meteorite, but
Like, the more you
That's
told
bad.
that story, the more my face fell. Like, I was like, no.
It gets worse and worse as it goes on.
No.
everything you said, I just kept.
The
like,
guy didn't want to join the military
oh.
because he had a good life and he had a new girlfriend and he had a
was
good job
fine.
and his parents were German and he was like, I don't want to go die. And they were like, too bad.
Tough.
You're going. And he's like, all right, but
bad,
can
so
I
sad.
get a non-combat job? I work at a bank. And they were like, fine. And he went over there and was like, boy, it's terrible here. And wrote his buddy and was like, it's terrible here. And they were like, here's a gun. You're meat for the fodder now. And then he tried to... I can't even finish. I don't even want to relive it again.
10:59. I know. I was like, I can't even. And the fact that they were trying to wave him down and be like, no, this is about
If that
to
is
end,
true,
bro.
that is the most heartbreaking aspect. Because these guys were like, we don't want to kill you.
But
Go back.
We're not trying to do this. It's about to be over, buddy.
Oh, Henry.
Well, Lauren, can you
Bad
read that?
news.
I am not sure if I can.
We'll see.
I don't know if this is my heaviest hitter, but this story is just wild. Like, I would want to share it on the podcast anyway, because what and how. So, I am going to tell the story of Henry Ziegland.
Ziegland.
Another German.
Another German.
Except he lived in Texas, but yes, German. Ziegland! The story of Henry Ziegland. It's been around for over 100 years, and it is one of the unluckiest and also most unbelievable tales that you might hear, which I include unbelievable because it's a crazy story, but also some people wonder about it. Like, everywhere you look, this is a story that has somewhat been verified because of the people involved and the story that has taken place, but I don't know. People have questions because it's so crazy. Anyway, in 1905, this farmer, Henry Ziegland from Honey Grove, Texas, broke up with his then-girlfriend, Maisie Titchener.
Aw, sorry, Maisie.
Sorry, Maisie. Is she the unlucky
Sorry,
one?
Maisie. No,
Okay.
well, it does get dark for a second
Oh,
when you
geez.
ask if
All
she's
right.
the unlucky
Whoops.
one. She took the news incredibly badly. She wanted to get back together. She begged him to get back together. She
Been there.
tried to get over it. Family and friends tried to help her. She did, unfortunately, take her own life.
Aw,
because
Maisie.
Maisie.
Ain't no
of
man
the
worth that,
depression.
Maisie.
I know,
Ain't
Maisie.
Ain't no
I
man worth that.
know.
No man worth that.
No man, Maisie. Angered by the way that Henry had treated his sister, Maisie's brother took it upon himself to get revenge because, of course, he just lost his sister and
Yeah.
he's like, who the fuck is this guy? I'm about to come for you.
Yeah.
So he went down to Henry's home and he shot at him before turning the gun on himself and taking his own life. I know, it's
old
dark.
murder
It's dark for a
suey.
moment. So he shot quickly because he knew, I'm about to take my own life. I just lost my sister, my best friend in the world. So he shot quickly, took his own life. But unbeknownst to him, before he shot himself, was that the first shot at Henry only grazed Henry, went past him, and landed in a tree behind him. And Henry didn't even realize that it landed in the tree. He just knew he was grazed by the bullet, kind
Sure.
of got out of the way just
Yeah.
in time and was like, oh, I don't know where that bullet landed, but thank God I'm still alive. I can't believe that just happened. So this is already incredibly tragic, but he got lucky for a moment having the bullet miss him. Fast forward 20 years, and Henry is out in the yard chopping down some trees on his land. But there's one tree that just can't budge. It's so big, it's very strong. His axe isn't cutting it. So he sets the axe down and he bored some holes in its trunk and he packed it full of dynamite and thought,
no.
this is how I'm going to blow up this tree because it has to come down, but it's just too strong. He backs up. He's even watching with his son. He's like, watch this. This is going to be really cool. If you ever see a tree blow up, he's excited about it. Upon detonation, tree is blown to pieces as planned, but it also dislodged that bullet that had sat there waiting for 2 decades, and it hurtled through the air and struck Henry smack dab in the middle of the head, immediately killing him. Unsurprisingly, this story made the local news. The whole affair was printed in black and white, the entire story of how it had happened, because family members of Maisie's knew the story and what had happened with the brother, but they never knew what happened to the bullet, but they were like, oh, that's for sure how the bullet got into the tree, because he shot him that day and missed. And it has now been published around the world.
Holy
and
shit.
everyone now knows about the unfortunate affair of truly one of the worst,
Oh boy.
Unluckiest coincidences that's ever
Nikes.
taken place.
Coinky dink. Yeah, like I would have wanted to share this story regardless, because we talk about coincidences and crazy things all the time. So I don't know if he's the unluckiest. I don't know if he's my heavy hitter, but what?
Pretty heavy hitting.
Pretty unlucky. To dodge a bullet and then
Dodge a
20
bullet.
years later have that same
comes and
bullet
gets
kill
you.
you? That's insane.
Yeah, that's like that bullet was fated for his brain.
Yep.
Yeah,
And
it was
found
like
it.
it's Final Destination style.
Yeah,
like,
that really
I'm
was
getting you.
Final
I'm
Destination.
coming
He got
for you.
destination.
You got destinationed.
He didn't die. He was destination.
Yep.
He was destination.
That's what
Yeah,
Joe and I
that's right.
call a lot of murders now. Destination.
They got destination. Yeah.
I like that. I'm gonna start
is
using
super
that. That is really
macabre.
good.
Yep.
And I'm sorry,
Oh.
but anything
Death
to get you through your day.
finds a way.
That was
Just
good at Jeff Goldblum.
That
That was good.
Thank you. This is why we have you on.
Okay, thank you. Wait, you feel that?
Uh,
Feel that?
Okay, well, my next person, her name's Jeanne Rogers.
What's
and
up, Jeanne?
She is
Alright,
a
What up, G?
cartoon character of a person. Lauren
She is.
almost covered Jeanne as well when she checked my notes,
I
and she was like,
did.
I almost did Jeanne, because what?
She's phenomenal.
She's phenomenal.
I'm sorry,
Okay.
Jean, but woof.
I did so much research on this woman to make sure this was all true, because it really did seem like a joke. But I'm just going to go in order of the dates in which these things happened in her life. Basically, it's her whole life. She's a cartoon. In 1967 was the cruise incident. Jean went on a cruise with a friend to Merthyr's
They
Vineyard.
went on a cruise to Merthyr's Vineyard.
That's like the Hurley word.
Yeah.
Tur.
Yeah, it is. They went to Merthyr's Vineyard.
Enough, guys.
Had some surfers.
Enough.
Some
It's
little-
some words.
Had some
Oh,
lobster.
that's good.
Okay, she went on a cruise with a friend in Martha's Vineyard. And at one point, they were on the deck trying to take pictures by the rail. It was raining, or it just stopped raining. The deck was slick with water from rain. And Jean slipped and fell over the side of the boat. Her friend turned to run and get help, but also slipped on the wet deck and hit her head so hard she was knocked unconscious.
I feel bad for laughing, but that is so bad.
The story
That's
rules
just-
already.
I know. This feels very cartoony.
Luckily, Jean had her life vest on, so the ship was able to turn back and retrieve her when they
Smart.
realized what had
Nerd.
happened.
Smart lady.
An entire hour later, she just floated in the ocean, waiting on them to come back and save her.
Thanks.
Nightmare.
But they did.
Nightmare.
The next one happened in 1971. She was waiting for a bus in Hartford, Connecticut. What?
Hey, Connecticut.
It's actually 1971 is the year that my mom graduated from high school in West Hartford, Connecticut. So
Oh, they could have
Oh,
known
look
each
at
other.
that.
real close to home.
Will you call your mom and ask if she knows Jeanne Rogers?
Sure.
Okay. So, she was waiting for a bus in Hartford, Connecticut when she was struck by lightning. The lightning blew off her shoes, burned a small hole in her right ankle, and melted her pantyhose onto her legs.
Those last two aren't funny, but knocking her out of her shoes is very funny. I don't care what you say.
It's just the shoes sitting there smoking.
A hole going through somebody's foot, fusing your pantyhose to your skin.
Horrific.
Not fun.
Horrific.
Bad.
Blowing you out of
Awful.
your shoes,
Hilarious.
absolutely
The
hilarious.
smoking shoes.
Unquestionably
It's too good. Yeah.
Inarguably, will not listen
Yeah.
to a rebuttal. Continue.
She actually, she did have some damage to her nerves, like in her feet. She was unable to use from that on.
You told me she got struck by lightning. I assumed as much.
Well, here's the thing. She got struck by lightning again in 1970.
This is the best episode of this show you guys have ever done.
I know.
I'm having so much fun.
Jeanne Rogers. It was crazy. Oh, it's so good.
She got struck by lightning again in 1973. This time the lightning struck a metal bracelet she was wearing that absorbed or deflected. I don't really know how that works, but most of the hits.
Absorbed.
She didn't suffer.
It's a conductor. It's not a deflector. It's a conductor.
Well, I was like, deflected from her body, absorbed into the bracelet.
Nope.
Either way,
she got struck by lightning.
She was fine. Then one night,
was she Wonder Woman? She deflected it with her cuff.
I know. Ding, ding, ding,
ding. Ha ha! Not this time, lightning. I learned my lesson.
Okay, you guys. First of all, I'm about to be one of the unluckiest people on this list because you guys will not stop making fun of me.
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
This one's actually horrible.
Uh-oh.
In 1981, her husband came home drunk and attempted to strangle her to death.
What?
But she got away. They did divorce.
I like how the fact that he was drunk gets mentioned. It's like he came home, and because he was drunk, he tried to strangle her. And it's like, pretty sure there's a bigger problem
as
there,
you
but...
do.
Yeah, pretty sure maybe he had some other issues.
He had 5 Miller High Lifes and came home and was like, now you have to die.
I've been drunk with this guy several times, and not once has he tried to strangle me.
No, in fact...
So I'm going to go ahead and say there were some other issues.
In fact, when I was at my drunkest with you, you had to take my shoes off.
And all you kept saying was, I'm
sorry. So, yeah.
I'm sorry.
You're fine.
Yeah, so I don't think it had to do with him
You're
being
good.
drunk.
You're safe.
But regardless, I'm going to let you finish your story. It's just, this is insane.
Jeanne has also been mugged. She was running errands for her job one day when 3 men attacked her and took her pocketbook as well as a silver bracelet she was wearing. Not the same bracelet that was struck by lightning.
I was going to ask. Okay.
A different silver bracelet. And apparently Jeanne was fine with them taking the pocketbook, but when they took the bracelet, she went full feral and punched one of the guys in the nose and caused all of them to flee. The same job, it was a cosmetics company, started to send her back out into the world because no one gets a free pass. I don't care if you've been mugged, you're going back out there.
Struck by lightning.
Corporate America. They sent her out on some deliveries with her and her young son, and they were walking through Middlefield, Connecticut. Okay. When he looked up in the sky and started pointing, saying, "Look, Mom, a funny bird." Well, that bird was a bat, and it swooped down and embedded itself in her hair. So imagine the scene from where Meredith gets trapped under the trash bag with the bat in the office. Like, it's the same scenario. Like, she was running through this neighborhood. This bat was embedded in her hair. She couldn't get it out. She was running from door to door, knocking, asking people for help. But when they would open the door and see, like, a bat attacking this woman, they just shut the door.
Like, absolutely not.
So she's, like, running through this neighborhood, screaming. The bat has its claws in her head and is pissing on her head. It's, like, running down her body. She's got all this bat pee on her. Finally, she runs into a woman she knows. And the woman's like, "Here, take my keys." And, like, gave her her car keys. She drove herself to the vet. Bat still in her head. Drove herself to the vet. The vet put a mesh bag over her head and sprayed smoke into it until it fell asleep and fell out of her hair. And Jeanne had to wear a beret for 3 months while her hair grew back.
Oh, Jeanne. At least berets are stylish.
Yeah, right? I know. At least she looked like a chic Parisian. Also, to be fair, if this was, Connecticut, 1980s, not too far from New York City, she probably just looked like one of those guardian angels who was walking around New York City in the 80s with the red berets and the jackets.
So cool.
They were so hip. It was very fashionable at that time to wear a beret. So that.
Gosh, Jeanne, I hope that you felt like a stylish queen.
I do too. I like the idea when you said that, the vet, he was using the smoke pump, I just thought of George W. Bush going, "We're going to smoke them out." That's all I thought.
Smoke them out.
Like, how are you going to get them out of the caves, George? And he's like, "We're going to smoke them out."
Well, that's not all.
I miss him. Can we get him back? Hold on a second. I never thought I'd say this, but the last 20 years have not gone well. I think George W.
let's
Bush
get him
would
back.
actually be a step up at this point.
I
think
want
that would
I
actually
want
be a
that
step in the right
lovable-
direction at this point in time.
I want that lovable
Oh
teddy
my
bear
God!
back
At
in my
least he
life.
was aware of where he was. I mean, it's so funny.
least he
It's so, we
knew
made
that
so
he
much
was the
fun of him for
president
being
and was
so
speaking.
dumb, and then it was like, oh, but he wasn't a out to lunch geriatric.
No, he's just kind of
I know.
He was just kind of a goofball who shouldn't have been president.
If we could get him back without Dick Cheney, what a dream.
Might be a different scenario.
Guys,
There's
Who
something.
knows?
do it.
There's
Anyway,
something.
I
Think about
digress.
I have one more story about Jeanne, and it is one of the
Okay.
best.
Is it
Oh,
good or bad?
Yep.
I mean, it's unlucky.
Oh, Jesus Christ, this poor woman.
So, it's her most famous fail.
What?
While swimming at the Hartford, Connecticut YMCA,
Woo!
It's good.
Jeanne heard an announcement over the PA system that there was a phone call for Rogers at the front desk. Her name is Jeanne Rogers. So she gets out of the pool to go up to the front desk to take this phone call that's probably for her, but she accidentally pulls the cord of another man's swim trunks and pulled his trunks down in front of every single man, woman, and child at the pool, and that person
Wait.
happened to be Fred Rogers. Mr. Rogers'
It's the
neighborhood.
best story.
How did she?
It was
How
Mr.
did she
Rogers.
accidentally
Because she's
pull
the
off-
unluckiest person.
How do you
in the
accidentally pull
history
off somebody
of
else's
Earth.
bathing suit?
climbing out of the swimming pool. It was
Climbing,
like,
she
oh
slipped,
no.
And she grabbed and she pulled Mr. Rogers' swim trunks down, and everyone saw Mr. Rogers' penis. And then she finally gets to the front
And his
desk,
bum.
And it's his call.
and it was for Fred Rogers, not her.
She didn't even need to get out of the pool. Like, of course it was for Fred Rogers. Jeanne, no one was calling you at the pool.
Somebody do this woman a favor and just hit her in the back of the head with a ball-peen hammer.
She has a funny
Put
quote,
her out of her
actually.
misery.
Like, her famous quote of hers was like, "Death doesn't scare me, living scares the shit out of me."
That's pretty good.
Because
She's like,
I don't know what's
death will
gonna
be
happen
sweet
next.
release.
So good.
Death will
Like,
be a sweet,
what
sweet
else?
release from the horror that is every minute of my life. Waiting for the next atrocity to fall into my fucking lap.
Yeah, so.
It's so good that she caused Mr. Rogers to flash an entire pool of people. Like, that is my favorite
An
story.
entire
It is
swimming
so
pool
good.
of people saw Mr. Rogers pee-pee
Yeah,
because of this.
because of this
Jeanne.
unlucky.
Oh my god.
It's Joe's turn.
You guys want to hear about Wilmer McLean?
Yeah, he sounds fun.
Let's do it.
Anybody know Wilmer?
No.
No? Anybody come across Wilmer? All right, well,
Tell
let's
us.
learn. Born in 1814, that was a
Yeah.
long time ago,
He's
right?
old as shit.
Wilmer McLean was a wholesale grocer and a retired Virginia military officer. He was specifically a Virginia militia officer who was living in Manassas, Virginia in 1861.
Okay.
With tensions between the North and South brewing at that point in time, right on
Why?
the cusp of the Civil War.
Oh.
What?
Yeah. Two armies totaling nearly 40,000 soldiers
God damn.
amassed on McLean's property in Manassas, Virginia.
Oh, no.
Being a former
Yikes.
Virginia militiaman and a sympathetic person to the Confederate cause, he was more than happy to lend a hand to the Confederate forces
the
there.
Confederate cause?
Yeah, providing them information on the surrounding terrain, what would be good high ground for them to get, allowing the Confederates to use his barn as a field hospital and his parlor as a makeshift headquarters. Well, on July 21st, 1861, the first major battle of the Civil War kicked off, the Battle of Bull Run, and it took place on Wilmer McLean's front lawn.
Okay.
At one point, a cannonball actually smashed into his roof and dropped down the destroyed fireplace into his kitchen. Can you imagine a war on your front lawn? I don't like listening to
You're
car
just trying
stereos.
to sip your tea, and it's like,
I don't like listening to cars idling
Yeah,
outside of my
if
house.
a car
No.
is too loud and drives down our... Joe will get up off the couch and look out.
I'll look out of the. I'll be like, who needs
Who
to
is
fix their
this?
fucking muffler? Who needs to take their car to Meineke?
Would you, Meineke, would you walk out on the front porch? Would you be
I've
the
done
get
that.
off my
He's done
lawn
it.
guy of like,
I don't.
such an
No, I
old
don't.
man.
I don't say anything. I just get out there and I stand and
He
I
just
stare.
looks at
you just
him.
look. No, that's a thing. You're
I
just
get
like,
out there and I'm just like, I'm here. I see you. What are you doing? I live here. Why are you here? You don't live here.
Ever since we've moved into a house on a cul-de-sac, Joe has really
Just
taken
full suburbs.
On, the full.
If you-
well,
if-
it's supposed to be peaceful in the
Yeah,
cul-de-sac.
if you have ever
so come
seen
on.
the
Yeah.
Tom Hanks 80s classic, The Burbs, I would fit in perfectly on that
course.
street at this
Yeah.
point in time.
You would. I could see
So
that.
imagine a fucking war happening outside your house. That is
Yes.
absolutely insane. That is so. By the end of the day,
It is.
nearly 1,000 men lay dead on his property, with at least another 2,500 more badly wounded. And this isn't like wounded by today's standards. This is like arms and legs are missing. You know, like it is absolute carnage. So the Union presence and the continued fighting in Northern Virginia over the course of the next couple of years convinces the very successful Wilmer McLean to move his business and his family farther south in Virginia. So they stay in Virginia, but they move from Manassas to Appomattox County. And if Appomattox County sounds familiar to you, you might be something of a Civil War buff, because nearly 4 years after the war began, and nearly 4 years after the war initially found Wilmer McLean and his family, the war found Wilmer McLean and his family again.
Oh my God.
On April 8th,
No.
1865, a messenger from Confederate General Robert E. Lee's staff arrived at McLean's home, requesting the usage of his home once again by Confederate forces. This time as the setting for the Confederacy's formal surrender and the actual end to the Civil War, to which McLean reluctantly agreed. He was initially eager to help out.
Leave me alone.
And now he's like, I don't want to be a part of this. I'm an older person. I'm trying to keep my family safe. I don't want to do this, but he agrees. So the following day, the treaty's signed and the war is effectively ended, with McLean quipping, "The war began in my front yard and ended in my front parlor." Making matters much worse for Wilmer McLean was the fact that after the treaty had been signed, the Union Army of the North, the Army of the Potomac, stripped McLean's house to the bone, grabbing basically everything they could get their hands on as mementos to commemorate the occasion. So much stuff was taken from his house that an authentic recreation of his home is now part of the Appomattox Courthouse National Park, administered by the U.S. Park Service. So much of his shit was stolen and then repossessed after the fact that they were able to like perfectly recreate his house in modern times and make a museum at the
Make a
Appomattox
museum
Courthouse
out of
where the
his-
Civil War ended.
No good
Oh.
deed goes unpunished.
Nope.
Well, yeah, there you go.
So what's the lesson we learn?
Stay out of it.
Stay out of it.
Stay the fuck out of it, militia
No
man.
good
Just stayed out of
Militia man.
Get
Militia
outta here.
man.
This is on
This
you.
one's on you.
It's on you, Wilmer.
You picked the wrong horse, pal.
Yeah.
Treasonous fuck.
Yeah, he's gonna go pretty low on my list simply because he was on the wrong side of history.
You know what's so fun? Like, I will give anyone and everyone who alleges that the Civil War was about more than slavery. It was. It was about
For
more
sure.
than slavery.
It's about a lot.
But anybody who still refers to the Civil War as the War of Northern Aggression should actually be kicked out of America. That's like,
Sure.
that is an actual rule. And the
shouldn't
funny
be
thing
here
is,
anymore.
most of the people who would say that today, in this point in time, like, love it or leave it, they're the people who would call it the War of Northern Aggression.
Yeah.
You secessionary, treasonous fucks.
Oh no, here we go.
Anyway, I'm
Ooh.
done. I'm done.
It's
That's
okay.
all. That's
Ooh.
all.
There he
Here he
is.
is.
We needed a little bit of
Calm
angry
down, Joe. It was
Joe. It's not an
160 years
episode
ago.
Diet
about
Coke?
It was
You want
100
some Diet Coke?
Ugh.
Ugh.
It was 160 years ago. Calm down.
Take some deep
Calm down.
breaths.
We're
It's
okay,
gonna be
we're
okay.
okay.
It's okay to we're feeling the
John
anger
Wilkes
with
Booth
you,
is
but
dead.
we're gonna.
John Wilkes Booth is dead.
He's dead.
John Wilkes Booth is dead. Okay.
He's gone.
Sorry.
He's gone.
Sorry, everybody. I'm back. I'm back. I'm better.
can't
Okay.
hurt you.
Hi. I had some Diet Coke. I'm better. Okay.
All right,
Lauren's
we're
turn.
here. We're back.
Yay!
Yay! All right. This is an adorable but unlucky Croatian man. Frane Salak. I don't know if I'm saying that right.
Oh,
Salak?
yeah.
Salak? Croatian?
You know this
Anyone
one?
know? Did you see him? You know this one?
It's wild.
I don't think I know this one.
Okay, born in 1929 from Croatia, Frane Selak, or I also saw his given name is like Frano Selak, but he went by Frane.
Well,
I don't know. I don't know
we'll
stuff
do
about
his
Croatia. I'm very
chosen
sorry.
name.
I should
The
learn.
former Yugoslavia is
Frank.
tricky. I have a former Yugoslavian in mind as well, so yeah.
Do you?
Mine's a Serbian, though. They would hate
Well,
each other.
Uh-oh.
They would be
Oh, they hate each
enemies. Okay, I'm just going to go down the timeline of Frane Selak because, woof, this man. Many brushes with death. Again, seems unbelievable.
And I think that's actually part of the story, isn't it? Not to jump to conclusions.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, that some people are like, is all of this true? Which most of it is can be verified, but some of it, it's just what he
Yeah, you just
said
have to
in an
take his
interview.
word
And
for
so
it.
they're
Lay
like,
it on me.
Listen. Tell me
but
about it.
yeah, it's either way, even the things that we know for a fact happen are wild. So, 1962, a train, he's on a train ride, it flips off
Classic.
the track and crashes into a river, killing 17 people, but Selak survives, as did a few other people, but most of the train
Sounds
Real
died, of course.
unbreakable.
Yeah. Sounds lucky
unbreakable.
to me.
Oh,
Go on.
continue.
See, this is one of those, is he lucky or unlucky? I was going to ask at the end what you think. 1963, just the next year, he's on a plane ride, traveling to see some family. The plane crashes, killing 19 people, and during the crash, the like emergency door as we know it today, I don't think then it was even like the emergency door, it just got sucked off. One of the flight attendants got sucked off and
One of the
landed
flight
somewhere
attendants got
terrible and
sucked
died
off?
immediately. Yes,
During the
and
flight?
he got sucked off. This was while it was starting to
Was
crash.
anybody watching all of these people get sucked off during the flight?
Yes, some of the other survivors saw this happening. So the flight attendant goes off.
Usually, Lauren, really quickly, usually it's the passengers who are sucking each other off on the flights. Usually the flight crew doesn't get involved in the process. That's interesting. Now, if you're sucked off on a flight, does that count as the Mile High Club, or do you have to...
Does it have to
I
be
would think
PNV?
you could be in the Mile High Club for a sucking. It doesn't have to be a...
Lauren, I'm so sorry. You said sucked off twice totally unironically, and I couldn't just let it sit after the second one. First one was fine.
Dirty bird! You're a dirty
And
bird.
you were just like, yeah, he
Yeah,
got
everybody
sucked
was getting
off.
sucked
They were
off. It
all
was
getting
hey,
sucked
it was
off.
the 60s.
the whole plane got
It was
sucked
the 60s.
off.
What are you going to do?
We'll say sucked out
Okay, fine.
of the plane. Flight attendant went first, and then Frane got sucked out of the plane, and then the plane crashes, and 19 people were killed. But Frane, when he got sucked out, happened to land on the cushiest haystack
Aw.
that you've ever seen and survived.
Oh my God.
Sure.
Just some bumps and bruises, but he survived landing on the haystack, while most other people on the plane passed away. I think there were maybe 2 other survivors.
Oh my God.
1966,
3 years later.
He's on a bus, skids off the road, and kills 4 people. Selak is one of the surviving people on that bus.
A plane, a bus, a train.
A train.
Planes, trains, and automobiles. Maybe
Seriously.
he should just stay put. I don't know. Maybe he's just not meant to travel.
Don't travel. It's all transportation, because I'm going to add some more forms of transportation. This one...
Boat.
This is, funny enough, no. Boat is the one on his list.
Take a boat, pal.
It's
Take a
not part
boat.
of it. He did take a boat once, and he was totally fine, and everything else was bad. But a car. 1970. A car that he's in, he was a passenger in this one, catches on fire, but he manages to escape before it explodes. It explodes moments after as he's crawling away, surviving. Then, 1973, this is the one that was hearsay, so this is his story. But 1973, he is driving a car that catches on fire and shoots flames through the air vents, but he manages to get out and survives with only light burns. 1995, now we're jumping way ahead
he
into
got a nice
modern
little
times.
breather there, though.
He had a nice break.
Just
I think
enough
this was
time
when
to
he
let
was
his
traveling
guard
by
down.
boat.
Yeah.
Yes. He took boats for a while,
Yeah.
but then, 1995, he's like, I'm going to take a little stroll across the street, and he gets hit by a bus while walking.
This man
But he survives
was
without a few bumps and bruises.
absolutely being stalked by death.
Yes.
They
He is.
tried to destination.
He's trying to be destination, yes. 1996, a year later, He is driving a car. He misses a head-on collision, lucky, but because he swerved, the car falls off the road into a pretty steep ditch.
Wow.
He is ejected from his seat, falls into a tree, is able to hold on to the tree for dear life while the car continues to plummet and roll down further and further, breaking apart, crushing, and he's just hanging on to a tree. Survives. But then, this is when his luck turns around, even though you could say he's been lucky this entire time.
So he dies?
But this is very lucky.
2003,
I know, right? Sweet death. 2003, he wins $1 million in the lottery.
Wow! Hell yeah!
After all this. And in 2010, he gives away most of his money to family and friends. I think he had been giving it away slowly over time while also like making some purchases for himself. But whatever he had left in his savings, he gave away to his family and friends. And he just thought, you know what? I've been so lucky. He says lucky. I want to give away what I have to the people that I love so that they can feel lucky as well. So he has turned it around. And in interviews, he says, I am the luckiest man alive. If you can cheat death this many times, I consider myself lucky. So would you also call Friend Selak lucky?
I mean, I don't know. I feel like if it happened to me, I would definitely be like, I'm the most unlucky person in the world. But the thing is like, he keeps surviving.
Right.
I see where you're coming from. I'm on the other side of the coin. I got into a near fatal car accident when I was 19. And that was like kind of a one-off. I'd been in other accidents. I was in one with a friend who was driving that could have been really bad too, but wasn't. But that was the bad one. Right. And I feel like, holy cow, am I lucky? Because what happened to me could have, but narrowly, I could very, very, very easily not be.
There are other timelines where you're dead.
Yes, and I have the pictures of the vehicle to prove it. It is a disaster. My opinion of luck is not having to narrowly dodge death every 2 years. Luck is not having to escape burning modes of transportation every 3 years.
Yes.
In my opinion.
Now, did this man live in Croatia? Or was he...
He did for a time, but then he did move to the U.S. for some time, it looks like, as well. Okay. So he's a well-traveled man.
Well, I'm just wondering if he lived in a place where, like, public transportation was often.
Well, if he was living, I mean, given his age, it sounds like he probably didn't emigrate to the States until the 90s when the former Yugoslavia broke apart, because they were communist and,
Yeah, it was later in life. And in the 60s, I feel like plane crashes were much more common, right?
They
happened. He was on a small plane. It wasn't huge.
Yeah, they happened.
So,
sure.
I don't know.
Man, oh man. These are some unlucky fucks.
Sure are.
I know.
Who's up?
I'm up.
You got one?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
I'm going to talk about a man named Kostas Mitsotakis.
Ooh, a nice Greek fella.
I
remember reading his name, but didn't read the story, so I'm stoked.
On December 22nd, 2011, the small Spanish village of Sodeto transformed from a rural farming community to a suddenly wealthy enclave.
What happened?
They won a lottery worth $950 million.
Woo!
And you might be thinking, like, how did an entire village win the lottery? Well, the lottery works totally differently in Spain than it does in the United States. Basically, they have a Christmas time lottery called El Gordo, the fat man.
Yeah.
The fat one.
I was like, we know El Gordo.
Where the government prints out multiple series of tickets with the numbers from 0 to 99,999 and distributes them to local offices throughout the country. Anyone can purchase a ticket, but a single ticket is 200 euros. Like, $200 for one lottery ticket is pricey. So what would happen was, it was really common to break the tickets down into tenths or even smaller fractions. So in Sodeto each year, the local Housewives Association would buy a collection of these tickets and knock on every door in town and find out, like, hey, do you want to buy a portion of these tickets? And then the whole deal is like they'd spend $5 on a portion of the ticket, and they would give like an extra $1 for the organization that like ran town functions. So it was like a fundraising thing.
Yeah.
In 2011, the village's number was drawn, and they won the whole pot. Won close
village.
to fucking $100 million, or no,
Insane.
$1 billion.
Yeah.
Every single person in the village. It's a small village. There's about 70 households, so depending on how many people are in the house, won money. And the prizes ranged from
good for them.
The lowest winning came to 130,000. And then the higher winnings came from, several million per household.
Yeah.
And literally when the winnings were announced, everyone in the village came outside of their homes, cheering, partying, whatever.
Aww. So cute.
Every person except Costas Mitsotakis, because
he didn't buy a ticket.
He didn't buy a ticket.
He didn't.
He was the only one in the whole village who didn't buy a ticket.
Stop. The one person.
One household in the whole village did not buy a ticket.
I can't. That is so funny.
That's when
awful.
you just walk into the ocean and just keep walking.
Yep.
And he was the only winner. He was a Greek filmmaker who had moved to Spain to be closer to his girlfriend. They broke up. He wasn't even with her anymore, but he stayed in Spain because it was nice, and he continued to live in this house just outside the village. And the Housewives Association actually didn't go out to his house and offer him a ticket. But there's places to buy tickets in town, too.
He knew.
It wasn't like,
he knew. And he knew what was happening. Like, you would have gotten
Costas.
word. Sir.
Boy, that Costas him a lot, didn't it?
That
Hey!
was a good
Thank
So Costas is now known as the unluckiest man in the luckiest village. And I believe, so he was a filmmaker. I believe he went on in like 2014 or something. I think he made a small documentary about like how the winnings helped the town and like all the cool things that happened as the one guy
who didn't experience it. Yeah,
amazing.
He's like, I had to start a GoFundMe to make my documentary because I didn't
happen to purchase one of those.
Oh my god! Why do I keep yawning? I'm having fun and I'm awake. Why am I yawning? Someone answer me. Why am I yawning?
You're officially our rudest guest.
That was an actual question. Someone answer me.
I don't know.
We don't know, Joe.
You're not getting enough oxygen? Isn't that a thing?
I think it is an oxygen thing.
Want some
actually.
water?
No.
Can you breathe?
I hate water. Right? I never drink the stuff. You guys want to hear about Monica Seles?
Yeah, more than anything.
I do.
Do you know Monica Seles, either of you?
I don't. No.
Tennis player? No, nobody. Well, this is the other former Yugoslavian that I had alluded to. Monica Seles was something of a famous, tennis prodigy. And I remember her. Her ascent in the tennis rankings happened at the same exact time that I was like kind of becoming cognizant of the world around me. So yeah, I remember Monica, and I remember this incident in question
that still hasn't
very well
happened to me. I haven't become cognizant of the world around
No,
me.
Ashley has not. No. Ashley still could not tell you.
The mind of like a 3-year-old child.
Nope. Okay. I couldn't, from our house that we've lived in for over a year and a half now, if I were to ask Ashley how to get to a town that's 10 minutes away, she couldn't tell me what direction it was
But
in.
I have an iPhone.
There it is. And that's how we all stay dumb.
And that's all that matters. That'll be good forever. That'll never come back to haunt you. Yeah. So Monica Seles, something of a tennis prodigy, again, in the late 80s and early 90s. She became the youngest ever French Open champion, winning the French Open at the age of 16 in 1990. Which is insane. So by the time that her 20th birthday was on the horizon, she had already won 8 major singles titles. And to put that into comparison's sake, because I know that there probably aren't a ton of tennis fans who are going to be listening to this, at the same time, by the same age that Monica Seles had won 8 singles titles, Serena Williams had won 2. To give you an idea of just kind of how ahead of the curve. And this is a decade before Serena. So Monica is like the greatest thing that women's tennis has seen to that point, essentially.
Yeah.
But we're doing an
episode
episode
on
on
Unlucky
Unlucky People.
What happens?
So you guys are going to
Monica.
be pretty surprised at what happens to Monica Seles. What do you guys think
I'm
happens?
scared.
If you had to take a wild guess.
She gets a tennis ball hit at her throat, and it causes her to
Suffocate and die.
Okay, good guess. Lauren, what do you have? What happens to Monica Seles?
I was gonna say a tennis ball to the eyeball, but that seems too close. I'm trying to think of something that's not her getting injured. I'm like, somebody...
What if I told you that she gets very injured?
Oh,
no.
okay, then I think a tennis ball hit her so hard that her eyeball fell out onto the court.
I
and she couldn't
actually
continue.
know of a person that happened to, interestingly enough. Somebody that my dad went to high school with. They were playing tennis. They got drilled in the eye socket with the ball.
Gross.
And it hit them hard enough that it actually dislodged their eyeball, and it was actually hanging out of their head from the optic nerve. Pretty terrible.
So-
Same thing also happened to a girl in Connecticut who played a high school soccer game against my high school. A girl accidentally got kicked in the head by a girl that I went to high school with, and the same exact thing happened. Her eyeball came out and was hanging by its optic nerve.
Hey, do you want to know why I don't play sports?
Because of stuff like this? Well, just so you know, neither of those things happened to Monica,
Okay.
and it didn't even involve a tennis ball or a racket. So if you wanted to know what happened to her, would you be surprised if I told you that a mentally ill fan came running out of the stands and stabbed her between the shoulder blades with a 9-inch knife? Did you have that on your list of
Okay.
bingo
my
outcomes
God.
for 20-year-old Monica Seles?
This is actually
You
so
remember this
embarrassing
now.
that I didn't know, because I remember this story now, and it was even brought up recently because the U.S. Open was taking place, like, whatever, a couple weeks ago. So people were bringing up old crazy tennis stories, and
yeah.
somebody brought this video back on TikTok, and I was like, I remember this.
yeah.
This is awful.
Yeah,
so
it's-
that's actually
it
yeah.
is-
Holy shit.
It's horrific.
It is without
Yeah.
a doubt one of the most surreal and bizarre events in the history of sports, because it was televised.
And no one knew what to do because she like screams, and
Yeah.
everyone's like, "What just happened?"
It's between matches, so you know how there are sets where
Yeah.
you'll be like, oh, they're
Yeah.
up
She's
5-3
just
in the
chilling.
second set after winning the first set 7-5 or whatever, So she's chilling between games, sitting on the court between games,
Yeah.
when this guy, who was a gentleman by the name of Gunter Parsch, which of course he's got a weird name. He was an obsessive and a obviously very mentally ill fan of Monica Seles' biggest rival, Steffi Graf, who Monica Seles wasn't even playing in that match. Monica
He
Seles was
just
playing
wanted revenge out of nowhere.
yeah, playing a Bulgarian woman named Magdalena Maliva, and this guy who was this massive Steffi Graf fan. Monica was like the only player in the world who was beating Steffi at that point in time. So seeing the eventuality of them meeting each other later in the tournament, this guy saw his opportunity. She's sitting on the court with her back to him, and he just ran out of the stands, hopped the barrier, ran up behind her, and stabbed her right between the shoulder blades with a giant boning knife. Like one of those really long, thin, like kitchen
Yep.
knives, a boning knife.
Yeah.
Right between the shoulder blades.
Got it.
And after the fact, he had said that he wanted to hurt her so badly that she couldn't play tennis again for a very long time. That was his motive. He was basically just like, yeah, I didn't want to see her beat my girl Steffi, so I had to stab her. I did it.
It's so wild.
Yeah, absolutely insane. So, as if that weren't sad in and of itself, Monica Seles was never the same. Just not only battling the physical repercussions
The
of that and the
trauma.
nerve damage, the PTSD, the bouts with
Yeah.
depression. She had
I
developed.
would never want to be on a tennis court again.
No, she
Ever.
over multiple periods of time, she developed eating disorders. Like this totally changed her. And in spite of the fact that she had won 8 major titles before her 20th birthday, over the next 15 years of her playing off and on, she would go on to win 1 more major title in her entire career. And
So what ended up
What she had
happening to
achieved
her?
so early in life. Yeah,
she
that is so
recovered from
wild.
the stabbing. She spent the next 15
still
years.
alive?
Oh yeah. Yeah, she's still alive. She spent the next 15 years playing off and on. She retired a couple times and came out of retirement a couple times and won a bronze medal playing doubles in the Olympics. And so it wasn't like, but she was just another.
Yeah, never the same.
Nope.
Ever.
Nope. Yeah, that was like if you took Michael Jordan in his second season in the NBA and stabbed him in the back, and then for the rest of his career, he was just like a random dude who would come off the bench, like still in the NBA, but totally unspectacular. And
yeah, I totally just watched that footage recently, and it's so upsetting. This reminded me, it's not one of my stories, but it easily could have been. I don't know if he would be considered the unluckiest, but sports injuries, and you'll appreciate this, Joe, the hockey goalie who got sliced by the ice skate.
Oh, Clint Malarchuk.
Across the throat.
Yeah.
That is one of the most insane things I've ever seen, because again, it happened so quick, and a total accident of he's like leaning over to try and catch the puck, and a skater goes by and like
just catches him,
hits him just right, and it slices his throat.
There's been a couple of those that actually happened
that's being destination.
Yeah, and that's why you wear your neck guard.
Yeah.
They make cloth neck
Did
guards.
he just not
with Velcro
have his on?
them.
I never read enough about it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. He probably didn't have it. Yeah, I mean, that's why you wear a neck guard. It's just a piece of cloth.
It's just so awful.
It's not designed to protect you from blunt force trauma, like a puck or anything.
A blade.
A blade, specifically. Yeah. But there's another guy who played in the NHL, Trent McCleary, who, when I was a kid, went down to the ice to block a shot as a guy from the other team was taking a slap shot, and the puck hit him right in the windpipe and crushed his trachea. And they had to do like an emergency tracheotomy on the bench because the guy crushed the guy's windpipe. He couldn't breathe. He almost died.
Stop it.
Yeah, so brutal.
Hockey, man.
Hockey.
And
woo!
As I've said before,
Hockey.
This is why I don't play sports. Lauren, do you have another unlucky person before we rank?
All right, I just want to say this statistic first before I jump in. Okay. The odds of being attacked by a shark are about 11.1 in 11.5 million. Okay. So I'm including myself in this. Those of us who are afraid of sharks, try to remember that. And the chances of being struck by lightning in the U.S., it has increased. Because as we've learned from people in these stories, it does happen. It used to be like in the hundreds of thousands. Now it's 1 in 15,300.
That's not good enough.
No, it needs to be lower.
No.
Oh, no.
No, I don't like those.
There's a lot of people in this country.
I know. I was like, unfortunately, it's more likely, but still not like your everyday concern. Okay, so those are two big things. But a man named Eric Norrie from Florida has had both of these things happen to him. In 2013, he was bitten by a shark while vacationing with his family in the Bahamas. He was spearfishing in like 5 feet of water. He was walking back with his grouper back to the boat because it was clear, shallow water, but a shark out of nowhere took a huge chunk out of his leg, and he had to be airlifted out of there. He survived, whatever. But then when he was interviewed about this crazy shark attack that never happens in the Bahamas, he was like, oh yeah, last year I got struck by lightning. And also I've been bitten by a rattlesnake that was like the one rattlesnake in the world to not make its warning sound. Came out of nowhere and bit him. And then also he was punched in the face twice by a monkey while on vacation.
Well, okay.
Two different monkeys.
Could it be?
I had to include.
Could it be?
Animals hate this guy. Nature hates this guy.
He is putting himself in too many precarious situations. Because I myself have never been punched by a monkey, but I've also never traveled. I've never come face to face with a monkey. Like I've
also never gone spearfishing.
I've also never
been attacked by a shark.
He's an adventure seeker for sure. But in every situation, it was supposed to be safe. And like the monkeys, it was one of those where it's like, take a picture with the monkey. And on 2 different trips, they punched him in the face. And I just think that's the funniest thing ever. So that's Eric.
Smell it all over him. The monkey knew.
He's like, listen.
The monkey was like, this guy's got bad juju. You gotta get this guy away from me.
Like,
hey, come on.
This aura.
Come on,
I'm not here for it.
Take a walk.
So that's Eric Norrie from Florida, who just tries to go on adventures and it doesn't work out. And then Melanie Martinez. This one is a bit more somber, short, but very sad. She lost 4 houses to 4 different hurricanes. Melanie Martinez had Betsy in 1965, Juan in 1985, George in 1998, and Katrina in 2005. She lived in Louisiana, so, I mean, she was in that zone, but still.
That's not even the hurricane zone. Like,
That's true.
The Floridas and the Carolinas are even a bigger hurricane zone.
It totally is true. And it's like, obviously people in Louisiana have also been hit, but she happened to lose with all of them. And then she gets this beautiful opportunity, a reality TV show comes in and says, we are going to give you a home makeover. If anyone deserves it, it's you. A team spends a week doing a $20,000 transformation, new kitchen, new cupboards, new appliances, 50-inch smart TV, you know, the whole thing. Melanie Martinez is like, my luck has turned around. Here we go. Then Wednesday, August 29th, the 7th anniversary of Katrina. A Category 1 hurricane named Isaac howled in from the Gulf and hit her again. Martinez and her family were rescued by a boat along with their 5 kittens and 3 dogs. All the animals lived. I needed to add that.
Thank you.
But everything else was completely lost. She has lost 5 homes to 5 storms. Melanie, you should live on top of a mountaintop.
After like home number 2, I probably would have moved to
Melanie, move to Maine.
Hurricane-free
Move to
area.
Maine.
What they didn't tell you is that her first home was made of straw, and her second home was made of sticks. And then she finally built a home made of brick.
There you go.
And it's still got
And I'll huff and I'll puff and I'll blow
Melanie.
your house down. But
5
that
houses to
sucks.
5 storms. Melanie. I know.
Melanie.
Hey, you guys want to hear 2 real quick ones from me?
Yes.
Yep,
Yes.
let's
You
go.
guys know me. You guys know I'm a Beatlemaniac. You guys know that I would probably
What?
have something.
Never.
Beatles.
So I had to include Pete Best in this list. Pete Best is one of the several people who are referred to as being the 5th Beatle. He was an original quarryman. His mom actually owned the Casbah Club in Liverpool, where the Beatles played their first gigs back when they were the Quarrymen. He was their drummer. After the Beatles signed their first record contract with EMI in 1962, it was decided by the members of the group, by band manager Brian Epstein, and by their future producer George R. Martin, that this guy on drums wasn't very good, and we should replace him. And then right before they went on their tour, going to Hamburg to play those dates that would, you know, essentially launch the legend of the Beatles.
Launch them into success,
Pete Best couldn't make it to one of their gigs, so they had a fellow well-known Liverpool drummer named Richard Starkey, a.k.a. Ringo Starr, sit in on the drums, and within seconds of playing the first song, everybody in the band looked at each other like, this is it. Like, this is the missing piece. As soon as Paul's even talked about it, as soon as Ringo first kicked in, Paul looked at John and was like, This is the guy.
sound.
This is the guy.
That is so unfortunate.
And yeah,
for Paul
and so
Best.
and Pete Best was
Pete Best, Paul
very
Best, I said
unceremoniously dumped from the Beatles. However, there is a happy ending alert. 35 years after getting kicked out of the Beatles and their former record label, or the surviving Beatles, I should say, released Anthology 1, like a 4-disc box CD set in 1995. And it contained 10 demos and recordings from their early days that they had done with Pete Best. So Pete Best is the recording musician on those.
Nice.
And the Beatles sold enough copies of Anthology 1 that it's estimated that Pete Best made somewhere between $6 and $8 million off of the sales of this.
Damn. And what
Get
did
a
he
Pete
do,
Best.
like, with his life? Did he continue to do music? Or
He
was he just like, oh, I'm a
he
normal
bounced
guy?
around
I
a
hope,
couple
at
local bands that were like locally popular but never national fame, and then he worked as a public servant. He just like worked. That was just listed public servant. He worked in various governmental, local government
Well, he's a
capacities and
millionaire now.
helping people, and
I
so he had a
know.
very,
I'm
very
glad that
normal
he
life
made his
for 30
millions after
years,
that.
watching his childhood buddies and former
Best.
bandmates become the most famous people in the history of
most
pop
famous
culture.
people in the history of pop. Wow.
And then the very last one I have, I don't have a blurb on it, but I mean, you want to talk unlucky. So this
Okay.
happened on
I'll tell you
August
what we're
2nd, 1985, 2 days after the day that I was born, in the city of New Orleans. A gentleman named Jerome Moody drowned at a town swimming pool that was in the midst of hosting a party for lifeguards celebrating no one drowning that summer.
Oh my god.
So at a party celebrating the lifeguards for having not allowed a single person
No
to
one
drown
drowned
all
this
summer
summer.
long, one of the attendees of the party drowned in the middle of the
Smeared my
party,
lipstick 'cause
and
I'm-
no one noticed until someone saw a body floating face down in the pool, dead.
Okay, I know we have a woman who got hit by a meteorite, but I think Jerome has my
I've
vote.
already taken her out of the number one spot because here's the thing. I think that if you ended up dying,
You lose.
Like, you're number one.
Jerome wins. Loses, but
Jerome's
wins
a
my
contender.
For me, my number one is the World War II German, or World
War
War
I American.
American
You're
German.
wrong
Yeah.
twice. Yep.
Who, my vote is the World War I.
My vote is for Emperor
German
Hirohito
immigrant
and Imperial Japan.
who died 1 minute before the end of World War I. I think he is the unluckiest.
I'm
And we
torn
all
between
agree.
him and Jerome Moody myself.
Yeah,
I know. I think it's Jerome for me. I do think World War... Wait, what was the guy's name? The German World War
Henry
I?
Gunther, and he was American.
Henry
God
Gunther.
damn it.
but he was a German
Oh,
immigrant.
sorry.
He was.
Well, she said
but
it!
I'm descended of German
But
immigrants.
wasn't he, like, born in Germany?
No, he's born in America.
Oh, just kidding.
He was a second generation American.
parents
His
were
parents were actually born in
yeah.
America too.
Oh.
Okay, well,
So he's
you
a full
kept
American.
emphasizing...
You said he was German so many
I said
times.
he was
You
a
were
second
really
generation
emphasizing the
German
German
American,
shit.
and that because he was a German American,
Well, Lauren and I can only
Joe,
take
this
in
is on
so
you.
much information at a time, and we heard
I
German,
know.
and he's German.
And we're idiots, and you know this. Okay, so he was my vote pretty much this entire episode, but I cannot
Yeah,
get
you might have
past
gotten a winner at
the
this.
lifeguard party celebrating no one
That's what
drowning
it is.
and Jerome drowned.
It's not even
So
just-
it's too
it's
much.
not even just that
It's
it was
just
a
too much.
lifeguard party. It's that it was a party that
It was
was
the
being
s-
thrown
reason for the party.
specifically to celebrate an incident-free summer.
Yeah.
And one of their
Jerome- it's
attendees
Jerome for
drowns. The irony
It's
might put it
Jerome.
over the
The
top.
irony might put it over the top,
That's-
especially since, like, okay, we lost a lot of people in World War One. Like,
Yeah.
it was an unlucky circumstance. Definitely
Very.
horrible. Hate that for him.
However, you are at the front line of
but
World
you're the
War
front
One.
line of World War One. So I think you're right. I think Jerome might take
A pool party
Jerome.
attended exclusively
You
by
slipped him in
lifeguards,
at the
you would
end.
assume would be a very safe party
the
to
safest
attend.
party to attend and swim.
Yeah.
At.
Yeah.
And he drowned.
Now, if you went to like a ropes course party with a bunch of lifeguards, I'd be like, okay, not their natural
Whatever.
element.
Yeah.
I could still fall and die.
But a pool party.
Pool party,
They let
you would
their
figure
guards
I've
down.
never been safer.
They let their guard down for
Ooh,
just a moment.
Good one. Good one. What if, because we seem to be a little torn here, do you want your listeners to chime in on this?
Oh.
Have them
Do.
maybe vote? See if
Yeah.
maybe they've also got maybe a different opinion than you
That's
guys.
true. We
I
would
know.
love to
Maybe
fucking
they're
hear
like,
it.
it's this one story that none of y'all even consider.
Why not?
But I think it's Jerome. But listeners, you let us know. My goodness.
Yeah.
I actually want to end on a because I don't think we can really rank them all. I think it's so subjective as to who's the
Yeah.
like
Such
who's
interesting
unluckier than the other.
situations. Yeah.
I would definitely say Jerome, and
Henry Gunther.
Henry
Henry Gunther.
are up there at the top. I would say Meteorite. I would say Anne is pretty
Yeah.
high up there too.
She lived though.
Also, the bullet in the tree. The bullet in the
Bullet in the
tree.
tree.
Bullet in
bad.
the tree was wild.
Because he died, and that
he did
is
die.
cray cray. He did die.
So maybe he's up there with the three deads.
He got destinationed, so
Yeah.
you know.
What about Jeanne though? Do we think because
Oh, Jeanne.
Jeanne.
Oh, she's up there.
struck
Jeanne.
multiple times by lightning, attacked by a bat,
And had
pulled
Fred
Mr.
Rogers become a
Rogers'
flasher, so
pants off?
yeah.
She's pretty high.
Jeanne's up there.
She's up there. Drowning at a lifeguard party high?
No, listen, I agree.
She's
He's
like
still number
second.
one.
She's
That's why I'm
yeah.
saying we can't rank them all. How would we possibly
Yeah,
rank them
I
all?
know. You're right, you're right. So listeners, we brought up
We
some
need
of the
your
tops,
help.
so you let us know.
Help
Yeah,
us.
let us know.
But I did want to because listen,
What you got?
listening to an entire episode of
Unlucky?
unlucky stuff can be depressing. So I had two very quick, like, unlucky but extremely lucky things to throw in to show
Okay.
you, to balance the scales, to
alright,
show you
okay,
that, like,
alright.
things can look up.
I like it.
The first presidential assassination attempt in United States history An unemployed house painter named Richard Lawrence attempted to assassinate Andrew Jackson once right outside the Capitol in Washington, D.C. At the time, Andrew Jackson was pretty old. He was pretty frail. He walked with a cane. Should have been a piece of cake. But Lawrence stepped forward. He raised his Derringer single-shot pistol, took aim at Jackson's heart, and fired. Bang! Smoke filled the air. People are screaming. But no bullet. It misfired. Lawrence was like, fine. Pulled a second pistol out, aimed it right at Andrew Jackson's heart. Bang! Smoke fills the air. Everyone screams. No bullet. The second gun misfired as well. 2 different guns.
Ooh.
At this point, obviously, Lawrence had been fully tackled to the ground. Andrew had been rushed
Sure.
away. But what's really weird is
Damn.
that when authorities tested the guns afterwards, they fired both properly on the first try.
Oh my
And
God.
Experts say...
Oh, jeez.
Experts say the odds that both
Jeez.
weapons would randomly
wild.
misfire were 1 in 125,000.
That's
Wow,
wild.
wow, wow,
I was gonna say
wow.
because that could
That's
just be
wild.
back in the day. You know, that guy's powder could just be wet. You know what I mean? Like it could have been
Exactly.
human error. But the fact that they
Right.
worked immediately after on the first try, crazy.
Weird.
That
That's
just sounds like
unlucky
divine
lucky.
intervention,
That
doesn't
gun
it?
was not
Yeah,
supposed to
divine intervention.
Apparently not.
shoot a bullet. Now, this other one, insane. I can't believe I've never heard this story. This would be seen as incredibly unlucky, I think, had not for all 3 of these people surviving. In 1992, 3 men, Chris Duddy, a 31-year-old film technician, and Michael Benson, a 49-year-old cameraman, along with the pilot of this helicopter, were flying over the vent of a Kilauea volcano in Hawaii.
I don't like this.
They were flying over to get some shots for whatever news program they were working for or whatever. I don't know. I didn't look into that. The helicopter lost power randomly, so suddenly. The pilot, Craig Hosking, didn't even have time to radio for help, and the helicopter crashed into the volcano onto
course
the
it did.
hot crater floor, narrowly missing a bubbling lava pool. The men were all sort of separated in the cavern, so they didn't really even know that the other men were still alive. Like, they were shouting, they could, like, hear some things, but they were
Oof,
kind of
terrifying.
separated. They started to try to climb the rim, but the interior wall of the volcano crumbled so easily that every move they made threatened to create a rock slide, which would have been another horrible way to die in a volcano. But somehow they're in this volcano. They happen to not land in the lava. They also happen to land in a small part of the crater where some fresh air was circulating down from the rim, so they weren't breathing in
I was gonna
straight
say methane.
hydrogen sulfide and
Ugh.
sulfur
Right.
dioxide.
Oh my God.
Hoskins
What?
made his way...
Luckiest
the
people.
luckiest people. Hoskins made his way back to the helicopter and got the radio to work and called for help. Another helicopter was able to fly low enough into the volcano's cone to get the pilot on board, but the other 2 men couldn't make it to that helicopter, and they were left behind. 27 hours later, after the crash, Duddy had somehow managed to climb and reach the lip of the volcano. But again, Benson was still left inside. After 2 days without sleep or food, drinking
water.
rainwater cupped in his hands because it luckily rained.
Oh my God.
Thank
A
God.
helicopter pilot who's still searching for him got a glimpse of him through a momentary break in the steam, and they finally managed to get him out with a rescue net. All 3 men survived with minor cuts and bruises.
It's insane.
That's
They're the luckiest.
Insane. That is pure luck because everything that surrounded that was just pure luck. They should have died like 18
Yes.
times.
Literally.
That is
There's
crazy.
so many reasons they should not be
Whoa.
alive. Like, I can't believe that happened to them. So, listeners, if you're listening to this and you're like, oh my God, luck is so scary, luck can also be pretty fucking cool.
It can be on your side.
Wow.
Right, Joe?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, well, we hope we made your Friday the 13th a spooky one. This was a lot of fun.
Hope so. Hope Jason Voorhees liked it.
I hope Jason Voorhees liked it enough to not come after us.
That was good. That was good.
Before we go, do you want to tell them how much you love Jason Takes Manhattan?
That's the worst movie ever made.
Yeah. Okay. Well.
Okay. All right. Thank you for
Bye,
your
everybody.
review, Joe.
That was a very good review. Very short
That was
and
good.
sweet
Very
review
short.
of,
Sometimes
Jason
it's all you need.
Takes Manhattan. The entirety of that movie takes place outside of Manhattan until the one shot of him in Times Square at the end of the movie.
No.
Terrible.
All right, well.
All right, and there you have it.
Thank you guys so much for listening. As usual, we hope you're having a very, very spooky October. Join us next week. We will be joined by the Monster Man himself, Billy Roach, will be with us.
My boy Billy.
Billy.
We love Billy.
And we are talking about monsters once again. We're talking about some classic monsters that you all have heard of, and one DC monster that you have also heard of. And he slipped in there. It's a really, really great episode. We've already recorded it. We had a lot of fun.
Ooh.
And after that, listener ghost stories. It's gonna be a spooky month. But in the meantime, thank you so much. Make sure you're following us on social media at Keep It Weirdcast. Have a great week and keep it
Keep it weird.